This session is Why I Still Really Love You. And what we have is three kind of grizzled game developers who are going to talk about what it is about the industry that makes them happy after years and years and years and years and years of being part of it. The three people that we have, I'll kind of go from my right to my left. We have Eve Penford-Dennis, who is currently the senior art tutor at AIE. She joined the industry in 1992, so that's 15 years.
It makes me old, basically.
So 15 years, and she's been responsible for stuff on Wipeout, Crazy Island, The Last Ninja, Death Cars, Lumiton Space Race, and a whole bunch of other games that you can read about in the programme. To my left we have David Hewitt, and he's the creative director at Tantalus Interactive. He's been in the industry for almost 10 years, and is apparently still waiting to be found out, whatever that means.
I'll be discovered one of these days.
It doesn't say what games he's worked on, but I'm sure he can tell you. And on the end we have Andrei and Nadin, who's a producer at Tantalus, and he's been in the industry for over 17 years. So there's a real range of kind of lengths of time that people have been kicking around. You don't really need to know much about me because I'm not going to be talking. I'm just going to be asking questions. So what we're going to do in this panel, we're not going to do really any kind of presentations or anything. We're just going to kind of have a bit of a chat. If anyone has any questions at any point throughout it, just stick your hand up or just shout out, and we'll just get through that. So let's go. So first thing to do is just to get everyone to kind of just talk about their experiences, how they got in the industry, and what it was like then.
Okay.
So we'll go first.
I'll go first then. My name's Eve Penford-Dennis. I've been in the industry for 15 years. I feel like I should be saying I'm an alcoholic as well.
You are all an alcoholic.
Sounds like it at the moment. Blah, blah, blah. So basically, I fell into the industry quite by accident. I did fine art at uni and essentially sort of got into a bit of computer graphics, and somebody saw my final year exhibition and went, "Oh, you look like maybe you should come and have a look at what we do." And I went and I thought, "Oh, this is kind of cool. I didn't know you could make games." And that seems to be fairly common for a lot of people, that they don't realise that games is a valid career path, or that there's a place that develops games sort of, outside of Japan or the US. So I got into the games industry in 1992, basically worked for a couple of small companies in the UK, worked obviously here in Australia as well, basically have done quite a bit of outsourcing, and as a result have kind of worked with a lot more companies than I've actually kind of been seated at the desk of that company. So I've sort of had a lot of experience of companies other than the ones that I've actually worked in as well. So it's always one of the things that's always sort of surprised me about the industry is that everything, lots of people sort of have their different ways of doing it, but everybody's kind of equally in the dark quite often, and it's sometimes fairly reassuring to find that out. And to realise that we're all in some way kind of creating things anew as we go. And the last 4 years I've been teaching at AIE as a senior art tutor, basically hoping getting more people into the industry and sort of making sure that people have the skills that we like to see in the industry as well. So yeah, that's me.
David, are you an alcoholic?
I have been at times. I think that. I think that seems to be a common thread. My entry to the games industry was quite accidental as well. I started out, I was in university studying something productive with a career at the end of it, and then decided that I wasn't interested in that and wanted to do an English major. So I sort of resigned myself to working the same shitty jobs I was doing at university, and working on, I was trying to publish a few articles and stories here and there, and mainly just working on a really dreadful novel at home outside of ours that really wasn't going anywhere. And I was very fortunate to have been, I was at a party with my then girlfriend, and I didn't know anyone, and I was sat outside in a beer garden having a cigarette and beer and feeling nervous, and sat with another guy who was in a similar situation. His girlfriend was there, they were all friends, and none of us knew anyone else. And so we got to talking, and we got talking about games and so on, and discussed a few things that we've both played recently, things we'd like to improve, make better, and fortunate for me, this guy had also happened to have read some things I published for a magazine recently. And it turned out he was the CEO of a games company, which in Adelaide at that time there was exactly one of those. So the odds of sitting next to anybody was pretty long odds. So I was enormously fortunate. And he, at the end of the conversation, he didn't tell me who he was right away. And he used that as an opportunity to grill me about games and also to find out about what I was doing writing-wise. And his company at that point was Ratbag Games in Adelaide. His company needed some pitch documents written to present a pitch to Sony. They were pitching for 2 games at that time. That they were asking for, I think, about $6 million to do on the PS2. That was the first PS2 project in Australia. And he basically took me on. I was initially working from home, just doing some written work and some research, and just documentation stuff, but kind of wangled my way into the office a little bit at a time and ended up being the lead designer on one of those games and kind of figured it out as I went along from there. I was pretty much faking it at first. It was a scary time. I remember turning up on my first day at work and they hadn't had a game designer at Ratbag before. And I didn't really know what a game designer was. I really had never considered myself nearly clever enough to work on games. Certainly not able to write any code or have absolutely no artistic skills whatsoever. And sat down, on a tiny little desk between a couple of guys. So what do you do? Are you coding? Can you modelling, animating? So I thought, I can't do any of that. And it was actually quite a hostile environment at first. But I really don't have any qualifications or previous experience, but I'm going to be now trying to tell you how to better do what you're doing. And that lunchtime of that first day, I remember just walking outside. I ended up standing in a phone box with my head between my hands, just thinking there's absolutely no way I can go back up there. And it was a crazy place. It was an exciting time, an exciting place. Ratbag at that time was only about, I think, 12 people. And you turn up in this office that looked like a teenager's bedroom, and quite a few people seemed
to be... It probably was a teenager's bedroom.
Pretty much. People seemed to be living there. The people in the other offices in the building were all a bit suspicious of us. There was a guy just sitting there drinking at his desk all day. People not wearing shoes. Just a really lucky break for me to get into that kind of very, very strange world. And fortunately for me, I kind of stuck it out and did a little bit off my own bat to kind of figure out what I was doing as I went along. And it's been sort of a somewhat winding road to get me here.
Cool. Thanks. Andrei.
All right. So unlike my 2 colleagues, I got into the industry because I wanted to. Grew up in Zimbabwe where computers are pretty rare, and met a friend at school. He had a Spectrum, from 1 of 3 in the whole school. Played the first game and thought, right, that's what I'm going to do. So I gave up trying to be an astronaut and decided I was going to make games. And again, we couldn't buy games. You sort of relied on people driving down to South Africa and buying them or stealing them or doing whatever they did. So we could get copies of Your Sinclair magazine about 6 months out of date, and we'd sit there and we'd copy the pixels, one at a time out the screenshots, and we'd make our own versions of the games that we saw in the magazines based on what the reviews said the game did. It was kind of fun. I don't think we ever finished anything. We shared one computer between us in a teenager's bedroom. So I spent a whole weekend in there in the dark. I'd spend half the day doing graphics, he'd spend half the day coding. But then eventually I moved to England, and I thought, I'm going to carry on doing it. So I went along to pretended to do my A-levels, and the 3 of us made a game on something called the Sam Coupe, which was supposedly a super spectrum. It had a whole 256 colours on screen and had a disk drive. And we made our first game. It took us 2 years because we were also at school, and the week we published it, Samco went bust. So we started again. This time we decided we'd try the Amiga, something maybe a little bit more mainstream that people had heard of. But of course, as it had always been, trading the technology, the Mega Drive was naturally pitched up. But we eventually got to the point where we were getting work. We were porting games from the Mega Drive with the PC onto the Amiga. And we did a system which was kind of weird, I guess, but my company had me on my own in a little room and sort of 5 or 6 guys spread around England all over the place. And we made 5 games between us. We had one artist, did all the graphics, and the rest were all programmers, and every now and then they'd send things to the post. And made the mistake of signing all 5 games to one publisher, and back then most publishers had slightly dubious ownership.
What do you mean back then?
So funny enough, they didn't pay us a penny, and even more crazily, I ended up working for the guy, but no money. But